Namaste. Welcome to episode 3 of Vicharsthal, a show which is about your ideation and our inspiration. As you all know, that in every episode, I invite a guest who, according to me, is an everyday superstar, focusing on a sphere of work and doing immensely amazing work. In that area. So, of course, in episode 1, as you all have seen, we spoke about mindful birthing. Then, of course, we spoke about Tribal Connect in the last episode with Ananya. And today I have a very special guest with me. She's somebody who I really look up to. I personally feel that in this era when parents struggle with a lot of things, times are changing, her voice always comes across as very refreshing. It is a voice of reason, and I really love the advice that she gives to parents to tackle different issues of parenting. So, without wasting any more time, let me get her on stream. Hi, Devmita, and welcome to episode 3 of Vicharsthal.
Thank you so much, Anupama. Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here. I feel privileged to be invited to a Vicharsthal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It is definitely my pleasure to have you. And so let me just introduce Devmita for all of you. So Dr. Devmita Datta, MBBS MD, is a practicing doctor, a parenting consultant, and the founder of What Parents Ask. And you can check out the website. It is whatparentsask.com. She is a thought leader in parenting and conducts workshops on parenting for schools and corporate organizations. She also conducts prenatal classes for expecting parents. Through her work, she handholds parents through their parenting journey from the time they conceive up until their children leave their teens. Dr. Datta is a published author. Her books on parenting are published by Juggernaut. She is also frequently quoted in leading national newspapers. She has been stated for her work in parenting and for being an inspiring women achiever. That's amazing. And once again, thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm sure we'll get some great insights from you on mindful parenting.
Thank you, Anupama, for the very kind introduction. And it's a huge honor to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So let's begin, from the idea. As I always tell all my guests that, the show is, of course, about understanding that how each person has converted an idea into something substantial. So let's begin from there. That why parenting, what made you feel so strongly about the cause of parenting that you actually went ahead and, converted this probably idea, which might have germinated in your mind, to something like What Parents Ask?
It all started, I think, with my practice as a doctor. So when parents used to come to me in my clinical practice, so in my OPD, I would find, they're always so fearful, I mean, they were always shaking, literally, I've done this, now what will happen? I'm doing this, is it correct? Should I do this? Should I not do that? So there's so much guilt and fear. And it really, it was painful because, parenting is supposed to be joyful, after all, we have children by choice. We want to have them because we feel that they will add love and happiness to our lives. And that was really not happening. That was really something I was not seeing. And I realized that, the reason people were so afraid of what they were doing as parents was because they were relying on a lot of shoulds, So someone says, you should do that. So you jump into it. And then someone else says, no, you should not do that. And so they would be like, oh my God, I did it. Now what's going to happen? So there was no real reason behind what they were doing. I mean, they did not understand rather why they were doing what they were doing. And that was the reason for the fear. So my understanding of parenting is this, that, nobody can really tell you how to parent your child, because everybody lives in a different kind of a place. We come from different backgrounds, we do different work, we are different people, our children are very different from each other. So to tell somebody, in a case-by-case thing that when this happens, do this, when that happens, do that, it's impossible, literally. So each parent needs to decide for themselves in a given situation, what should I do? Now, what should really, guide this decision? And I think, it's this decision making, this minute-to-minute decision making, which is so stressful in parenting, So your decisions are affecting another whole human being, and that's so frightening that, if I,
Right.
am I doing the right thing, because it's someone you love so much. So what should these decisions be based on? So basically these should be empathetic decisions. They should understand the child. What does the child really need? Why is the child really behaving like this? And so people get stuck here and they're like, I wish children came with an instruction manual. You would see a lot of movies around that. So actually, it's very easy to understand a child. So although your child and my child may be very different from each other, at a particular age, say at the age of 5 years, the state of the growing body and the state of the growing mind at a particular age is similar. Not exactly the same, maybe, but similar. And it's if you can understand this, you can really understand your child, and tailor your expectations to match development, and that will kind of make things much easier. So the whole idea of stepping into parenting as a work field was to help people understand the growing brain and the growing body and what it needs and how to deliver it in the easiest possible way, so without too much complication and going into a lot of things. Just understand simply what is needed, how can I deliver it, and then decide how you can deliver it by yourself.
Right.
So
that
was
right.
the whole thing.
That's interesting to know. And I like how you spoke about empathy in parenting, because I think we talk about empathy a lot, but we never talk about it in context of parenting, like bacche to phir wo alag hi baat ho jati hai. And I think it's very important for us to realize that even kids are individuals, and even they deserve that kind of respect and empathy in the way we deal with them. So that's a great point you mentioned there, and I'm glad that that was the driving factor behind what parents ask. So that's wonderful. But I always wonder, because of course today there would be many parenting consultants. I'm sure there are a lot of people, and many times people also feel that kuch nahi yaar, I mean, they just give gyan. And I would say that these apprehensions are not completely unfounded, because at times, yes, there are people who do follow that thing of, they should do that, as you were talking. So I wouldn't say that, completely this kind of apprehension is unfounded. But at the same time, of course, I think there is this tendency to, view all parenting consultants as people who are probably out there just to give gyan. And I'm sure many people also think in a way that, okay, why should we really pay to hear gyan? I mean, that's something I don't need. So did you ever face this kind of mindset in your journey where, maybe someone made such a comment, or not maybe directly to you, maybe you heard from somewhere, but was this an aspect at any point in your journey? And if at all it did happen, how do you motivate yourself? Because I'm sure at times, things like that can make one feel slightly, I won't say demotivated, but yeah, it can be a bit deterring in, the vigor with which we go about things. So yes, so how did you face it? And yes, if you did, then how did you cope up with that?
So actually, I was really fortunate in the sense that, I have never kind of been told that, you're just giving gyan. So I stepped into this because they were already asking me these questions in my OPD, right? So they used to come to the OPD, and OPDs, if you've seen them, they're really busy.
Exactly.
We are seeing really sick children. So if a well mother brings her daughter and says she's not eating, or she's not listening, or she's not writing, I'd be like, there's so many sick children, what is this? This is nothing compared to the real illness. Maybe someone has epilepsy, asthma, etc. In front of that, what is this? But the fact is that for that parent, it is a huge problem. It's a very real problem, and I was feeling that, I'm although I know the reason and I can tell them, I don't have the time, so that's why I stepped into this, because there was this people wanted to hear this. So I started with this. I think, why people, so you cannot give gyan. That's the first thing.
Yes, that's very important. Yeah.
you cannot give gyan. You have to, you have to do your research. And so a lot of people, what they do is, I think, the shoulds in parenting come from, just reading this, that, or going by your own
Yeah.
experience. So my
Yeah.
experience, may not work for you at all. So when I start telling you things based on my experience, that's when it becomes real gyan. That I did this, it worked for me, so it should work for you. And if it's not working for you, you are doing something wrong. Something wrong
Yes.
with you, something wrong with your kid.
Right.
So that's gyan. But what I do is essentially, talk about the reasons, the physiology, the physiological reasons behind why children behave a certain way. So
Right.
to give you an
Right.
example, there was this lady the other day, and she was like, now her daughter is about 4-5 years old, but she was telling me when my daughter was, very small, like she was like 3-4 months old, she used to cry and cry all night, and I used to get so frustrated because
Right.
I didn't know why she was crying, and whatever I was doing was just not working. So it was not the crying which was disturbing her. It was the fact that she didn't know why the baby is crying, right? So most parents are very flustered by this. So to give you an example, that why does the baby stay awake all night? Why can't they just drink all the milk in the morning? What's wrong with
Yeah.
them?
And I relate to all of this, I mean, all that you're saying, I relate to it completely.
Yeah, but so there's a very good reason for this. So there's a lot of the milk production is more in the night. It's as simple as that.
Right. Right.
So when
Right.
babies feed in the night, they get more milk, and so it makes sense for them to sleep during the day and get up in the night and feed.
Right.
If you
Right.
know that, you would never get upset about the crying at all.
Yeah, because you know the reason, and I think I really relate to it because I had the same issue that ro rahi hai to pata to chale, why the child is crying. So yes,
Exactly.
that awareness, and I think that's why it becomes very important to be informed, to be mindful as parents, because I think that comes from awareness, and you really have made a great point there that it's and I think that's the reason probably you did not face any kind of such issues, probably because that's how you approach your consultation or whatever, like your interaction with the parents.
Yes.
Great, great. That's wonderful. So I would just like to maybe show a few comments. So Aisha has joined and she says, hello, Anupama and Dr. Devmita. Thank you so much for joining,
Hi.
Aisha. And Anjali says, enjoying the conversation. Very valid question, Anu. Thank you, Anjali, for joining. And Anjali also says, you say it so well, Devmita, that people will not take Gyan, but approaching it scientifically and logically helps. Exactly. And I think when it comes to parenting, especially, I feel that parents may take more offense also sometimes, when you actually go about giving a Gyan, like, don't teach me kind of thing. So I think if you approach it logically, it just definitely, people are more receptive to it also.
Yes, yes.
So that's great. Thank you for your comments. I would also like to tell the people who are watching us that if you even have any questions related to parenting, especially mindful parenting, which is our topic for the discussion today, please feel free to post your questions. And as time permits, I will take up your question during the session or probably at the end. Okay, so now coming to our topic of today's session, like. So we talk so much about mindful parenting. I think today, especially, we are all talking about it because somewhere, of course, all of us want to, be mindful parents. We want to be better parents. There is so much of talk about mental health. And I think this is a very important aspect, when it comes to the mental health of a child. So I guess due to various reasons, of course, we do talk about it. But I want to understand from you that how do you view mindful parenting? Like if somebody asks you, like, what is mindful parenting? What is your perspective on it? And why do you think it is important?
So mindful parenting, it may sound cryptic, but then mindful parenting is actually about having courage. Okay. It's the courage to A, be yourself, and B, accept
Right.
your child as they are. Okay.
Right.
So if we really look at parenting, so parenting and reproduction, so it starts with reproduction. So reproduction and child rearing are basically survival based.
Right.
So we
Right.
are programmed to reproduce because otherwise our species will die out. We must
Yes.
rear our children and we must make them adults who will be able to reproduce. Otherwise, our species will die out. So in
Right.
that sense, these are all survival-based, instincts that we have. So
Right.
parenting is about, coming out of surviving and getting into living. You know,
Mm. Mm. That's
enjoying
very
the
interesting.
journey in that sense. So when you're surviving, you're constantly in fear. You
Right.
want to control what happens because the outcome is very important to you. And what is the outcome of whatever instinctively you want to kind of the survival thing is you want to bring up a child until the point that they're able to become adults and reproduce.
Mm.
So
Mm.
forever it has been like that, but
Right.
now we don't want that. We want to enjoy the journey. We want not to get into that fight, flight, freeze, flock mode.
Yes.
So we want to enjoy the journey, for which we need a lot of courage. So it's not easy to be empathetic. It's not easy to be compassionate. It's not easy to be kind, right?
Right.
Because survival is based on yourself. This is
Correct.
me, and I need to keep myself alive. I need to do things for myself, and I need to do things for someone in my near vicinity, people whom
Yes.
I love, who have to move ahead as well.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's not
Right.
easy
Right.
to be kind and compassionate and empathetic, but when you have the courage and you say, no, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to freeze. I'm not going to get into inaction. I'm not going to fight. I'm not
Right.
going to run away from the situation. And I'm not going to flock with others and do what everyone else is doing. I'm
Right.
going to
That's
have the
very
courage
important.
to recognize that I am different, my child is different, and because of our difference, we can be a very important part of society, and we can really contribute to society
Mm.
beyond the function of reproduction and propagation of species in that
Right.
sense. Right. So,
Yes.
so that's what mindful parenting is all about: receiving your child as they are and being courageous enough to be who you are. So sometimes we're ready to receive our children as they are but we're not confident enough to be ourselves. We are
That's
constantly trying to be
so well
someone
put.
else. Yeah.
Right, right. I think that's a very unique perspective on mindfulness. I think this has been so enriching for me as well, as a parent, that usually we look at it with a very typical lens, but I think the way you explained it just now, it just makes so much of sense. I think I would definitely keep that in mind, about being myself also. It's not just about receiving the child, but, about our own courage to be ourselves and, kind of not succumb to the pressure that we are. So that's great. I think I'll just take a few more comments. So Namita is asking about the age group so that she can ask a specific question. Namita, actually, as we told you in the introduction, Dr. Devmita can answer questions related to, from if you're pregnant to a teen child. So it doesn't matter the age of the child. Just feel free to ask your question. And Rohini says, you nailed it, Dr. Devmita ji. That's wonderful. Thank you for the comment, Rohini. So there's a question from Anjali. She is asking a few tips for taking care of high energy levels, as well as emotional health of children, especially since children aren't going out. I think she's talking with respect to the current times of COVID, and whatever, connect is happening is all virtual. I think you have also written a book, right, on this, on Juggernaut Books, which has tips for work from home parents. So maybe you can probably also answer her question and then maybe talk a little bit about your book as well.
Yes. So thank you so much for that wonderful question, Anjali. So the thing is, we're all cooped up, and you would think that, we have more connection time with our children, but actually, paradoxically, we are getting more and more disconnected. Right?
Right.
Because you have so much to do. You have work at home, you're working from home, you're working at home, you have no me time left, and nobody has any time left. So, when you are, it's literally as if your survival is threatened yourself. So, in that
Right.
scenario, to connect with your child becomes a little difficult.
Yes.
And
Yes.
children, again, they sense this very quickly. So they realize that my parent is preoccupied. And that, leads them to what you're saying is, high energy. So so children always, they, whatever the age of the child, whether they're, a 1 year old or a 17-year-old, they realize that, without my parent, I am unprotected. I need my parent to be focused on me to be safe, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
when we do not focus on them, when we don't connect with them properly, they get into this high energy state, and the whole idea is to attract our attention. It's very instinctive for them. They don't know that they're
Right.
doing it to attract our attention, but they are doing it to attract our attention because they're feeling unsafe without our focus, right? So
Right.
it's very important to focus. So the child who's in the house, so I would say, the even the most distracted parent can constantly give hugs. So even if you
Yes.
can't at least do it with your body. So, periodically when my daughter is passing by, I'll just tell her, come here, sit next to
Yeah.
me. And I'm
Yeah.
constantly typing, but I'll at least, hold her with one hand.
But that's a great tip, because I've also done that and I realize it works. You may not completely, you may be busy, but just that one hug, like you just said, I think that does work, because they feel that, okay, like we've got that attention. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. The other thing is, to connect with the eyes. So the child may be playing there, or a teenager may be coming and going. So whenever
Mm.
you catch their eyes, just look deep into their eyes and give them a smile. So that again does not, maybe you're typing an email and you're like, oh my God, to really come out of the email and say something may be tough, but at least you can look up and smile. That doesn't take too much effort, because we have
Right.
to do things which are easy for us. We can't like kill ourselves in order to, bring up our children. So me first should always be the priority. The third thing, like you said, connect is virtual. So yes, unfortunately, our village has gone far away through virtual connect. But I'm really,
Yes.
I'm so grateful that we have this pandemic now and not 10 years ago when we had no way of connecting, right?
Right.
So children, we can, connect them in various ways, to their grandparents. So every day we can schedule some time when they can talk to their grandparents.
Right.
Maybe once a week they can connect with their cousins. They can connect with their aunts, uncles, even neighbors. If you live
Right.
close enough, maybe you can talk balcony to balcony. At some time of the day when you're not
Right.
going to disturb the
Right.
neighbor.
Right.
So
Right.
all these things, I mean, I'm sure there's a workaround around all these things. So yeah, children need to be connected, and we have to think of innovative ways to connect
I
them.
agree. I
So
agree. I agree. I agree completely. Yeah. So if you could also talk about your book, the one on Juggernaut, and just for letting even the people who are watching know that there is a fabulous book that Devmita has come up with on Juggernaut, and the title of it is 15 Tips for Work from Home Parents. And I'm sure during the current times when everybody is working from home, it will definitely help you. You can read it for free. All you need to do is you need to download the Juggernaut app and log in. So if you could just tell a little bit about how did you get the idea of writing the book and what it is about exactly, like I mean, just a few lines on the book.
so like Anjali, asked this question about being home with children all the time. So
Right.
you tend to think that when you're at home, it's all vacation, but it is not a vacation. And parents
Correct.
are working from home. They have targets to meet. They may lose their jobs. That's a huge reality in today's
Yes,
world.
of course. Of
So
course.
they have to work doubly hard. Like you can't just slack off and say, okay, I'll work sometime. You have to show that you're performing and stuff like that. So in that scene, it definitely becomes very, very difficult to, parent 24 hours a day, because earlier we had, children would go down, they would play with their nannies, they would go to
Mm.
playgroup, they would go to daycare, they would go to play
Yes.
school, they would go to
Yes.
school. So many other avenues were there. And once this was kind of, with this isolation, all that has gone away, and everybody was like, asking me for tips. What should we do now that we're at home all day?
I know. every every home story, this is like they say, kahani ghar ghar ki.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that, let me just put it down in points, simple, easy to
Right.
use points
Right.
which you can actually implement. So the 15 tips that go in the book. So it's a very quick read. It doesn't take forever to read. It's a very short book. Let's say, a few minutes read only.
Right.
It gives you exact pointers as to what to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll be very happy if people read it and then they come back with questions. Because even
Yeah.
for me, writing new things is all about receiving questions from people.
Right.
So yes,
Right. Right.
thank you for sharing all that about the book, and I will be delighted if people read the book and ask questions,
I'm
because
sure they will, and I'm sure it will even help them. So let me just take a few more comments that we're getting. So Ankita said that, I mean, she talks about a very valid point that sometimes on mom groups, there are moms who take medical advice, which could actually turn out to be risky. So I think, yes, that's true. And definitely we wouldn't recommend that, I mean, of course, you can take some suggestion with respect to, if someone has gone through the same thing, or if, just to get an idea, but the medical advice definitely should not be taken from the support
definitely.
groups. Yeah, so that's true. Then Aisha is saying that I think, do we fear being judged by society for our parenting choices? So most of the times we aren't courageous, and that's a valid point. I think constantly we are looking for that validation that we're doing it right, and I think that to let go of that becomes very important. So she's asking how to handle that, because what if our decision for kid proves wrong? I think this is a very good question, because we are always thinking ki ये गलत हुआ तो, but I think, it's okay. We are humans ultimately. So, what would you suggest that, how do parents, get over this fear कि अरे मैंने ये decision लिया और अगर गलत हो गया तो सब तो, people will be like, oh, it is all your fault. So, how do we get over that?
So this is the reason that we can't be mindful, because we're focused so much on the
Yes,
future, and
yes,
being
yes.
mindful is all about being in the present, right?
Right,
So,
right,
the fact is that you cannot say what will be right for your child or for anybody.
right,
So a
right.
simple example, so a few months ago, just maybe October last year, I bought a laptop. Okay, and at that time, the salesman, he tried to sell me a laptop with a very good camera, right?
Right.
And I was like, I already have one laptop which has a very good camera, so I don't need another laptop with a good camera, so let it be. And look at me now. I have a brand new laptop with a very bad camera. Who knew that the pandemic would come, and we would all be only on camera all the time, right?
Right,
So,
right,
so this is a small decision, but so at that time it seemed like the right decision, but now it
right,
seems like the wrong decision. So there's no way to say that a decision will be right or wrong. You just do whatever you think is right at that moment.
right.
Having said that, so we need to build our knowledge about a situation before we can really decide. So
Yes,
one of
yes,
the important things to understand there is, understand our child. So number one, understand, uh, what is my child like, and that nobody
right.
can tell you except the child. So instead of
Exactly, exactly.
being worried and thinking, I don't know what will happen. How did I decide? It's simply ask the child.
Correct,
Simply
correct.
ask the child, and believe me, children are so good at telling you what they need and what they want and what they think will
Right,
work for them.
right, right.
So that, I think, would be the starting point. The other thing would be, and because we're so worried, we sometimes don't connect with children at all, right? So
Right,
so A
right.
is to stop worrying. B is to start talking to children, because only they can tell you what will work for them, and that's
Yes,
how you can really know them. And third is to build your knowledge about the physiology, like I said, about the child. So to understand the brain, to understand the body, to understand that okay, my child is saying this at this point, but what are the limitations, and what are the things that I should keep in mind, that why, while they may be right, what are the things which are causing biases here, you know
right,
or what
right.
should my expectations be in this situation. So all these things help us to make more confident decisions. We can never make the right decision, but at least in the moment we can be happier with our decision if we have enough knowledge. That's the
Yes,
only thing that we can do as
I
parents, but
agree.
we always be terrified.
Yeah. I think and I think we also need to realize that eventually we will learn from the mistakes as well. We are humans after all. I think for me as a mom, that has really helped. That I just look at it like okay, I'm a human, and yes, though maybe a decision which feels right eventually may prove to be wrong for whatever reason, and it's okay. That doesn't make us any less of a parent. I think realizing that is very important.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So self-blame and wallowing in that is really not the right thing. So so people keep asking, what is your biggest parenting mistake? I think that's the most common question that comes to me in my
Yeah,
interview.
I agree. Even I get asked, I get asked that a lot in interviews as well. But honestly, I just can't think of my biggest parenting mistakes. I'm like, there might be
I
many.
believe that there
I
are
don't
no mistakes. There are no mistakes. There are no mistakes. We do what we think is best at that given moment. And I
Correct,
think
correct,
intention is the most important thing. So if you have the right intention, I think you're forgiven for anything and everything. So you must question yourself. So the question to be asked whenever you're making a decision is, am I making this decision out of love and knowledge, or am I making this out of fear? So if you're making
correct.
the decision out of fear, stop and get rid of your fear. What is the reason for your fear? So people are saying this, they're saying that. Do your own work, do your own research. Find out what is the fact. Do not go by what other people are saying, because that's what is making you shaky. So knowing is very, very important. So never make decisions from a place of fear. Also never make decisions from a place of greed, right? So
Mm.
this is not just in parenting, but in life in general. So this is
That
what my parents always taught me, that never make decisions when you're greedy or when you're afraid.
correct.
Sleep over those decisions, do your research, know what will work for you, and then only do it. So
Great. I think that is definitely a key takeaway, I would say, from this session, that, make those decisions from a place of, love and knowledge, and not fear or greed. That can truly help a lot. So Anupriya says, I so agree that kids do want to attract attention. Mine get into brawls so that I pay attention to them both. Very relatable, I'm sure, Anu, for many. Rohini says, so true. Mamta says that hug part works. Yes, I'm sure for all of us it does. Ankita also says that a smile and a hug works magically.
true.
Anjali says, very helpful and practical. Thanks.
Thank
And
you.
Aisha says that I need that book. I will check it out surely. So, yay.
Thank you so much, Aisha. That will be really lovely.
Yes. And Anjali says, I'm definitely checking it out and coming to you with questions. So I think, Devmita,
Thank
you
you.
need to be prepared for a lot of questions after this live.
I will be delighted to answer questions.
Right. Okay. And yes, she says that you keep telling me this and I need to keep reminding. I think, yes, parenting is also so much about, reminding ourselves of things which may already know. Like, yes, sometimes we do know things we don't follow. And yes, we need to, keep reminding
Yes.
ourselves. And so there's an interesting question from Rohini, which is actually also related to my next question. So she's saying, I always keep telling my daughter, this is right, this is like, good or, bad or wrong. And I observe her feelings always and address them also. But sometimes she feels overloaded, with all that. And is it over parenting? And maybe you can also, I'll just link it to what I wanted to ask next is, parenting evolves, with time. And of course, times change, so many other things change, and of course even the way we parent has to change in keeping with the times. So what do you think are the things in general, of course, because you interact with so many parents, so what do you get a sense of, what are the things we as parents, probably, this generation is doing right, and where do you think we can do better? So yeah, if you could just address her question, and then of course talk from that larger picture of where we are probably doing good and where there is a scope of improvement.
Okay, so Rohini, great question actually. So I would say, it's not really okay. She's 13 now, so
Yeah,
so
yeah, I'll let you know the age
with
also. Yeah.
teenagers, you cannot lecture them. The fact is, teenagers. So the whole period of adolescence is basically to separate from the parents and make your own way into the world. So that's what the whole
Right.
period of adolescence is all about. So of course it is not easy to leave the parents and move out into the real world, and teenagers are terrified, as as brave and as strong and as defiant as they may look. They're actually terrified inside because of what they're attempting, and we must always be compassionate about this. When we go on telling them, this is bad and that is wrong and this and that, they've already got a really muddled mind, which gets further muddled, and they get terrified, and then they go into that freeze. So they pick up a phone and they're just that's a freeze mode. That's an escape mode, literally, So they've escaped from you. So that can only make things worse and worse, because devices are meant to, they're meant to make money for the device makers. They're not supposed to be good for us in any way. So the fact is that, lecturing them will not work. I think what works for teenagers is to go, case by case, and just see how they're feeling, and just give them a little bit of input at that point. It's best if you can bring in some examples from your life, So although we lived in a very different time, but a lot of, the human interactions basically remain the same in many ways. So, I think teenage parents, they really need to do a good, rigorous course on, understanding teenagers. And there's so much going on in their brain and their body, and parents need an understanding of that before they even start talking to them. Because, say, you come to my house when I've got like 30 million things to do. I'm not going to receive you well, right? So
Yes.
a teenager's brain is something like that. There are 30 million things going on in the brain and 30 million in the body. So whatever you say to the teenagers like, oh man, no, shut the door, get out. I don't have time for this. I can't handle any more workload. It's similar to that. So we need to understand teenagers. So a lot of my workshops are actually focused on, helping parents understand their teenagers. So understand teenagers, speak to them with empathy, So a lot of times just being there is enough, and they will come to you and they will tell you their problems. When they reject you, don't go away, right? So they will reject you over and over again. They're just testing whether you'll stay or go. So just be there, and eventually they will open up to you. When they open up to you, if you're confused and so say, it's important to understand that teenagers are now beginning to think for themselves. So just go through various, scenarios and say, okay, if you do this may happen. So is this something you want? Okay, but if you do that may happen. Now, is that something you want? And then there's the third scenario, So when you help children to think about it, it becomes much easier. So eventually, we can't teach children all skills. We can't teach them. You can't really, we don't even know what we're teaching them and whether it's ever going to be useful for them. The only thing we can teach them is, how to make good decisions. And I think approaching it in this way and telling them that, if you do this, this will happen. If you do that, that will happen, and so on. Not in a way where you're, frightened, but in a very logical way. And at all times conveying that whatever happens, I will be there with you. No, whatever happens, you can be sure that I will be on your side. But I want you to make a very well thought out decision. So let's think together, let's decide, and after that you do whatever, and we will be on the same page and doing things together.
Yes.
Coming to your question, so you asked me, what are we doing right and what are we doing wrong in parenting?
I mean, because I'm sure you get a sense of how things are after talking to so many parents. So, I was just curious that are we really, heading towards that mindful parenting? Like, how far are we or how close are we? So, what do you feel that, what is it that we're doing right and where there is a scope for some improvement?
So what I think is, we're doing a lot of things right, I have to say,
Okay, so that's something good to know.
So we're doing a lot of things right compared to previous generations, for sure. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt about that. Okay. Like I was saying earlier, it was just about, bringing up a child somehow. you
Yes.
know, making
Yes.
them successful according to the definition of success that we kind of, internalized. And then, just saying, okay, now I've done everything and you can just, you can now own. And that would lead to someone who can make money maybe, but is probably not emotionally, mentally secure in that sense. So we have realized, and I think it's the affluence which has come, so it has a lot of advantages because of the affluence that we have. We're not so, um, anxious rather to get our children into an earning mode. So we're like,
Yes.
it's okay, we can support you, it's not urgent for you to, I'm now going to retire and then, what will happen to you from tomorrow, who's going to put bread on the table. So it's not like that anymore. So
Yes. Yes.
we're able to give them that scope. We are willing to allow them to be themselves, right? We're willing to allow them to experiment, to explore their minds and stuff like that. We still find it scary, and in between we look at others and we're like, she learned dance and drawing and karate, and you're just sitting here and doing nothing, reading a book, so it is frightening at times, but we have learned that, okay, it's not all bad. What we're doing wrong possibly is that, we're sacrificing ourselves too much in order to give them that space to grow in. But that does not work. It's as simple as that. You cannot give what you don't have. And if your objective is to help your child be happy, first you need to be happy, right?
This is, I think, something all moms, especially because of, the kind of mindset that we have, that sacrificial mothers, and how we put them on pedestal. I'm really glad you touched upon this. I think this is something all of us need to not just realize but apply it. That yes, I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice for them to grow. That's I'm really happy to hear that from you.
Yeah, so earlier we were sacrificing ourselves in a very different way, but now we're sacrificing ourselves in a completely different way.
Yeah.
So earlier it was, I mean, like, okay, I won't eat and I'll give you my food. Now it's probably, it's no longer about food anymore, but now it's like, I'll give up my whole life and I will have no passion and no interest and
Exactly. Giving up dreams and aspirations. I think now it's become about that. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So that is not right, and I think it's important for us to realize that we are people on our own and follow our passions. So like I was saying to Rohini that you cannot instruct children, but you can
Yeah.
inspire them. But to inspire them, first you have to do something, right? So if your whole life is just focused on inspiring them, look up to. But if you are doing something on your own, you will have also a lot of examples to give them. So you say that, see, I made that wrong decision in that meeting, or I made that wrong decision when I was interacting with that person. I misjudged that person, either good or bad. And we do make these mistakes. So these are the things which I learned from this interaction, and these are the things which you can now apply to this situation which you're in.
Yes.
But for that we have to do things, so that I think is the most important thing, to follow on passion and be ourselves, ask for our needs to be fulfilled, and so on.
Great advice, I think, and we all, as I said, should keep this in mind. So there's a very interesting comment and question from Tina. It's pretty long, so it has hidden our faces, but I'll just read it out and probably hide it. So she says, "Hi, Anupama and Dibmita. Thank you so much, Tina, for commenting." So yeah, she's saying it's so good to see both of you. Thanks for the reminder that there are no parenting mistakes. All that matters is the right intent. It takes off the mommy guilt big time. My daughter is 11 years now, and she's in a phase where she wants her own independence. I do want her to be assertive, and yet, as a mother, this adolescent stage is very vulnerable. Any parenting tips and wisdom amidst peer pressure and technology? So I guess, yeah, so primary, because as you were also talking about teens even earlier, so one of the challenges that the peer pressure thing, where they do succumb to the pressure from friends. Maybe they might even end up doing some things which they may not want to do, but because the peers are doing it. So yes, so how as a parent can we, also let them have that independence, but also, tackle these issues of peer pressure and even technology. And I think technology also somewhere can be related to the peer pressure, when you're listening to all your friends, okay, that person is on Instagram, or maybe, she's using this. So we tend to say that, why are you stopping me? So yeah, so what do you suggest on the aspect of peer pressure and technology, especially when it comes to, say, even 10 plus years? I think that's when the preteens phase kind of starts. So what's your take on that?
So very important to understand that the whole phase, the whole period of adolescence is for moving away from the parents who are from a previous generation, to get absorbed in your peer group. So once we
Right.
understand that, it makes a lot of things very, very clear to us. So you
Right.
cannot prevent children from interacting with their peers. So it is the time when they are looking at their peers to see what they're doing, because they want to be like them, and which is not wrong, because if we were like our parents, we would be complete misfits in today's world. We don't walk, talk, behave, dress, anything like our parents used to. So if we
Yeah,
continue like that, we will
exactly.
be a complete misfit. So you have to learn to speak that language. You need to learn to interact with that kind of emotion, or whatever, emotionless behavior, or whatever it is, right? So it's very important to let go of teens and do that. With regard to peer pressure, number one, I think, factor in peer pressure is how much were you influenced by peer pressure, right?
Mm.
So you are the kind of person who is able to resist peer pressure. You will find that your child really follows that example. But if you're the kind of person who's always thinking, I don't know what they'll think, I don't know what they'll say, I don't know what they'll wear, I don't know where they will go, so if you're that kind of a person, you're kind of making that mind which is going to be influenced by peer pressure. So first of all, it's very important, so parenting is all about setting examples, leading from the front, as you may
Yes.
say. So very important, number one, not to get influenced by peer pressure yourself, so to resist to some extent peer pressure. The other, I would say, is to be connected. So even when children are influenced by peer pressure, they are thinking, so they're still thinking
Mm.
individuals, and the teenagers are capable of a lot of thought. So all they do,
Right.
and is do is discuss, that they're doing this and they're doing that. Now, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I not do this? Should I not do that? So they're experimenting. Teenage is all about experimenting with various behaviors, with various identities, and seeing what is best for me. So to remain connected with the teenager is very, very important. So whenever your teenagers around, be open to shutting the laptop, putting away the phone, and talking whenever they
Mm.
want to talk, right? Because
Mm.
it takes a tremendous amount of courage for them to come out and start saying things. Like they're
Mm.
no longer the
Right.
five, six
Right.
year old all the time, and they're like, oh God, now keep quiet. So
I know, because mine is 5.5. So yes, I know that exactly.
yeah, but teenagers will also talk like that in the presence of people who they feel will not judge them,
Yes.
and who will be able to guide them without, putting a stranglehold on them. So very, very important for us to kind of, be those kind of parents. So
Yes.
not put too many restrictions. The more restrictions you put, there will be more rebellion. So
Right.
it's better for you to know what your teen is doing, rather than your teen hiding and doing things which you don't know, which may be dangerous, right?
Yes.
So always
Exactly.
better to kind of know what they're doing. The second would be, to have this constant conversation. So if
Mm.
I start telling you about my life, of course a good bit, but suppose you're a complete stranger, for me to tell you all about my life, it's going to take
Mm.
so long that by the time I get to my problem, I'll be like, my God, she doesn't know anything about
Mm.
my life. How is she ever going to understand my problem? Right?
Right.
But if you're constantly in touch, you know all about the friends, you know all about who is doing what with whom, what are the
Exactly. Mm.
dynamics which are going on in the various groups that your child is in.
Mm.
So when there is a problem, they will say two words and you will get it. And
Yes.
that's all they have the energy to say, or the courage to say. So they will say any two words and you'll just have to catch it. But you will catch it if you know the remaining jigsaw.
Hmm.
So there will be that one piece which will come and it will hang around over there. But if you have built the jigsaw over a period of time, you will be able to fit it in, and you will be able to kind of, again, talk them through, like I was saying a little while ago, talk them through the various situations, because that's what they're doing in their head.
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
in a not very wise manner, because obviously, they don't have the experience of decades that we have. So, they're trying to do this weighing and pros and cons and stuff by themselves. So we can step in and help them do a little better
Yes.
weighing of pros and cons and make a decision. So I think that's all we can do about peer pressure.
Okay. Right. That's again a very practical suggestion, and I'm sure that is going to help parents of preteens and teenagers. Now, when it comes to especially the younger kids, I'm sure it happens to everybody, but yeah, I mean, being a parent of a 5.5-year-old, a lot of times I have these, sometimes you tend to have an outburst. So you do want to follow mindful parenting. You do want to discipline your child respectfully. But at the same time, there are times when you just cross that line. It is very easy, you just cross the line and you tend to, display some harsh behavior. So, what are some suggestions that you can give for handling such situations when you think you're kind of blowing up, or so for me, I sometimes also then end up saying sorry to her after that, okay, sorry, yes, mama did, and she kind of okay understands that, theek hai. But yeah, I mean, I think that is there a way that we can actually approach this, like in a little more I mean, some practical ways that okay, we can kind of just calm down our child.
So very, very important is that, everyone will blow up somewhere or the other. And
Yeah,
am
I
I still
think there
there?
was some internet connection. Sorry. Yes, now
Can
yeah.
you hear me? Okay. So very, very important to remember that, we're all human and we cannot be expected to constantly, be the calm, meditative, kind of people, and never lose our temper. So as stresses mount and challenges come up in our lives, we will, be agitated
Right.
and angry. So, like you said, the most important thing if you do blow up is to say sorry. And children are so good at forgiving. They
Right.
are so good at forgiving, and they learn how to say sorry from us.
Yes, I
So if
agree.
you start with the sorries, they
Yes.
will immediately, say sorry to you when they need to say sorry. So very, very important. The other thing is, like self-care. So don't push yourself to a point where it's all going overboard. So never overload yourself in that sense. At least try as much as possible to avoid
Yes.
overloading
Yes.
yourself to a point where you're so stressed and so challenged. So we are human beings. I like to always say that to people who approach me with this kind of a challenge. We're human beings, but a lot of times we become human doings. You know, we're constantly doing and doing and
Good one.
doing, and we forget to be. And children can connect with us only when we are just being, when we are not doing, or we're
Yes.
not expecting them to do something. Because when we're doing, we're
Mhm.
using our thinking brain. What that means is that we're suppressing our emotions. So say right now you need to make dinner. So of course you're like, oh, I'm feeling tired. I don't want to do that. So that's your emotional brain talking. But then you will say, okay, no,
Yes.
nothing. Everybody needs food. Get up, finish, make dinner. So that's you have suppressed yourself in order to get something done. So whenever there is this,
Yes.
this urgent need to get things done, it will be very, very difficult to kind of connect in that sense,
Hmm.
right? On
Hmm.
busy days,
Hmm.
we don't even connect with our husbands or with our parents because they're so focused on getting things done. Tuck, 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 tuck. So you need like a Sunday to really chill and do
Yes.
nothing in order
Yes.
to finally connect. So that is very, very important. So we must look after ourselves. We must have enough time to be and not do, in any sense. Just like that. And the third thing is, to understand what discipline really is. So discipline, a
Yes.
lot of people, misunderstand discipline. I do a lot of workshops on discipline at various ages. But the key to discipline remains that, discipline is not control. So it's not like,
Hmm.
I'm controlling you and I'm saying, don't do that. You can't do
Yes.
that. I will not allow you to do that, right? Discipline is helping children to understand the ways of the world, right? So children
Yes.
come self-centered. You don't know, a baby doesn't know that the rest of the world exists. Slowly, as they grow into toddlers, they discover that there's a world around them, but they don't know that it is, I have to do something over there. They think I am the most important person. But
Yes.
slowly, with discipline,
Yes.
we show them how to live with other people in a way that is comfortable for everybody. So that is what discipline is about. You control yourself, you behave in a way that is good for others, and that is what discipline is all about. So essentially, discipline is not at all about control or punishment or anything like that. It's all about empathy and compassion, right? So you have to help your child understand why they must do this. So if you're saying that, I'm
Hmm.
typing an email and I need to finish this email, and can you just give me 5 minutes? So just wait for 5 minutes over here. I'm going
Right.
to finish the email and then I will come back to you. Right. So you also need to explain why the email is important. Like, depending on the age of the child, you could
Yes.
explain. So
Yes.
you found that the
Yes.
child would like to cooperate with you. But of course, you cannot expect indefinite cooperation. So if you have said that you will finish in 5 minutes and get to the child, you must also keep your word, right?
Yeah.
So if
Yep.
you're expecting them to keep their word and keep quiet, you must not expect that indefinitely. You need to keep your word and go there when you are and when you have promised, in that sense.
Yes.
So
Yes.
discipline is a give and take. It's about developing empathy, about developing compassion, and not
Right.
fear. So fear will only make you hide and do things which will not be good for you, because finally we need to discipline ourselves. It's not about
Hmm.
controlling the world. You can never
Hmm.
control anyone else. You can
Yes.
only
Yes.
control yourself, and that is
Right.
very, very
Right.
important.
Right. So Sonal is saying that, but sometimes they are very stubborn. So then what does one do? Like, of course, I mean, I completely agree with what you've been saying, but, in situations when sometimes if the child is being very stubborn, so then do we, then tend to, because I think that's when we tend to get controlling, keep us, that is how it is and that's it. So what do you suggest if, what we can do if we feel that maybe at that point the child is really not being receptive to, maybe what we are saying?
So I think at that point, I mean, depending on the age of the child, of course, it's time to stall what you're doing for a while
Okay. So take a step
and
back,
just
basically. Huh.
attend to the child. So children are also stubborn because, again, they want your attention. They will
Okay.
keep arguing with you because it's keeping you there in that sense. Good, bad, whatever it is attention, right? So
Yes.
at that point, just give attention. So it's most important for us, so you find the children are stubborn in situations only when you're not really focused on them. On a
Yeah.
Sunday, on a relaxed day, on a vacation, on the beach, no child is going to be stubborn.
Yeah.
It's only when they know that you have 10 more things to do that they will start being stubborn. So it's about thinking that they're not going to be listened to. So it's very important at
Mhm.
that point to stop what you're doing and to attend to the child, to argue your point. So even children, when children are being stubborn, they're asking the only person they know can be asked in this world for what
Of
they
course.
want.
Yes.
It's as simple as that. But we call it, they're very demanding, they're stubborn, they behave badly, they answer back, and so on and so forth. So one of the things in parenting, I think, is to improve our vocabulary. So we should be able to reword it in a nice way and say, no, this is not stubbornness. This is my child asking me for what they want, and it's most important for me to stop now and see whether I can give it or not, negotiate, a very important skill, I think, to teach children at whatever age, that we have to come to a win-win somewhere.
Yes. Yes.
It has to
Very,
be a
very
win-win
well.
for everybody. That's
Right.
what everything is all about. Yeah. So
Right. I
I think that
agree.
there is no solution to stubbornness except to give a lot of
Yes, I
attention.
agree. And Sonal says that nowadays, because of online class and staying indoors, making them easy to, it's making it easy for them to simply just approach mobiles and laptops. Sonal, actually, we did talk about a book which Devmita has written on, the tips for parents, especially during the times now when they're working from home. And I'm sure you'll find a lot of tips related to the current situation in that book. So please do check out the book on Juggernaut app. And if after that you have any questions, you can definitely reach out to her. I'm sure she'll be very open to answering your queries, and if needed you can also probably book a session with her as well. So Damayanti says, discipline beautifully explained. Devmita, I completely agree with that, and that's the reason, I wanted to have you over for mindful parenting, because I think the way you explain, the way you break down things, it just makes so much sense. And even Aisha says the same thing, such an insightful point. It's all about giving them attention. Yes, that I agree completely, So I think this has been such an amazing and enriching discussion, and we've spoken about so many aspects of parenting, with questions from me and of course the audience who are watching us. So to summarize, so what are the tips, if you could just give some simple points as tips, to summarize that, how can we really be mindful parents? And the second part of this question is, how can we also propagate the idea of mindful parenting? So I feel that, as a society, we do have a responsibility. So say, for example, I'm also a mentor. So, I think even a mentor has a responsibility of being mindful with children. So, so I think this is not just limited to parenting exactly, but I think we as a society also can, propagate this mindfulness when we are dealing with children. So, yeah, so if you could just summarize this entire discussion with these 2 points, that yes, some few tips, like what we can follow to be more mindful. And yes, as a society, what can we do to propagate this idea?
Yeah, so great questions actually. So the first thing about mindfulness, so mindfulness is essentially a concept, I mean, like it's not
Yes.
something which you can do, So
Yeah.
there are 3 things. So I like to say, there are 3 M's to mindfulness.
Okay, interesting. I'm
So
going to write down now. I
first,
have a pen and paper here with me.
so sweet. So the first M is myself. So most important to
Okay.
understand that I cannot change my child. I can only change myself. So the most common thing that parents say when they call me up for a consultation is, my child is doing this. Can you stop them? So I always say, I cannot do anything to your child. If you want to change, you can come to me. I will tell you how you can change, and that will change your child.
Wow.
Because every
What a
action
perspective.
has
Amazing.
an opposite reaction. Thank
Great.
you. Thank you so much. The other M is moment, right? So we were talking about this in the past. So live in the moment. It is very, very difficult because we are focused on the future, and we're also stuck in the past, the mistakes that we've made in the past and the mistakes that we do not want to make in the future. But mindfulness is about being in the moment. And the easiest way, I think, to be mindful is to then be playful and to be funny, because you're playing is if you're playful, you have to be in the moment. If you want to be funny, you have to be in the moment. It's only serious
Yes.
talk which can go to the future or the past. Playfulness, and so children want playfulness.
True.
And that is why children are playful. So being playful and having a sense of humor about almost anything and everything is what can really keep us mindful and in the moment, right? So we've done
Right.
2 M's. So we did myself and moment, and the third is mind, right? So mindfulness is about using the mind, and it's our mind, and we need to build the mind, right? So as people who are not parents, we have a different kind of mind. And then as you have a baby, and then the baby becomes a toddler, and the toddler becomes a school going child and a teenager, your mind needs to change. So it's not going to be something which comes automatically. Like say today, if you want to learn statistics, would have to train yourself, right? I mean, it's not just going to land in your brain just because you want to. So training is very important. You have to reach out. You have to say that I'm open to learning. I'm not clutched by my ego, and I'm open to learning about my child, about my child's growing brain, about the challenges that the growing brain is throwing to him, her, them, and about the physical challenges as well. So understanding is very, very important. That's what all my workshops are about, because this is something I strongly believe. The other mind thing that I was saying is, of course, building your vocabulary, so redoing your vocabulary. So what you thought was adamant could just be, someone who has their mind made up. So in that sense, so these three, I think if we keep these three things in mind, we should be able to be mindful parents. So it's myself, mind, and moment. As a community, I think, yes, like you said, very, very, very important to be mindful. Like you said, some mentors. So very, very important to understand that, we have to have a village. And we have to create that village. The village, it exists, but we're shut up in our houses and we don't even know that the village exists, right? So you have to, so everybody wants to be friends. Everybody needs someone or the other. It's very, very important to understand that. But everybody is afraid of rejection. But you need to step out and you need to say that, look, I need my village. Are you willing to be part of my village? And believe me, everybody will say yes. And this is my experience over and over again when I have moved, and I moved a lot, because, I'm a Fauji, so I've moved a lot throughout India. I've gone to cities like Mumbai where people have warned me, nobody talks to you, and I have found the most amazing people who have been willing to do anything for me over there. But it's just been that, no one has approached them, and they have been afraid to approach the others as well. But you step out and you say, okay, will you be my village? I am willing to be yours, and that's how, we take the load also off parents. Your load is taken off.
Exactly.
You have to make the first move. So I think mentoring is a great thing. I do teen mentoring myself, maybe a different kind of mentoring, but yes, teen mentoring, helping them through their emotional challenges, helping them through their, academics in many ways, because they really struggle to use their, brains to study. So, that's something, that's an art, you learn how to use your brain effectively to learn and then to reproduce. So I do a lot of that. And I feel that, it takes some load off the parent, because the parent can't know everything.
Yes, it does. Yep. That's why I think it's very important. To, all of us together to practice mindfulness, because then it becomes easier for the parent if, if there's somebody else also associated with the child who can, help with that. So that's a great point that you've made. So Vartika is saying she liked the 3Ms concept and that it was a great session. I'm sure all of us like the 3Ms concept. Even I've noted it down. And Rohini says, it is just an amazing session. I will watch it again and again. I simply loved it. Thank you so much, Anupama and Devmita. So I think that is a lovely note to actually end this session with, because truly it has been a great experience. I actually was interviewing you, but then I think along the way, I just became a parent who was there with you for, learning more. And the concept of the show is your ideation and our inspiration. I'm definitely sure not just me, but a lot of us have taken inspiration from your ideas of parenting. So thank you so much for being here and sharing such wonderful insights for us. And I think parenting plays such a huge role in the society, because, if we are good parents and if we are mindful parents, we are definitely raising a generation who will only make the world better. And that's why it becomes all the more important. So thank you once again, Devmita.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Anupama. It was a great honor, and it's been such a lovely discussion, So
yes, absolutely.
I really enjoyed myself.
I didn't even realize the time, so we've overshot the time, but it just didn't, the discussion just flowed, and there have been a lot of comments, and I'm sure there'll be more comments later, because even, you've shared some wonderful insights for us. So you can probably just respond to those comments whenever you get time.
Certainly, certainly.
Okay. And I would like to thank the audience who took out time to watch us and posted so many comments. Thanks a lot for being there. And I'll be back next week with episode 4 of Vicharsthal. And my guest in the next episode is going to be Rachna Gupta, who is the founder of Gynoveda. And she's going to be talking with me about menstrual health. And I'm sure even that is going to be an amazing session. So do tune in next week on 30th of September as I talk with her at 7 p.m.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Bye.
Bye.